This is a very particular time of the season. It is a wonderful moment, a moment that you have to pause and hold it. It is special. It is the moment where we are all buoyant. We can dream. We are hopeful because anything is possible. It's a moment of joy. It's a moment of enthusiasm. It is a moment of anticipation. It's that particular point in the season where we all have a spring in our step. We all dream that something spectacular could happen to our team this season. It's that time of the season when nobody can tell you that it's impossible. Maybe it's unlikely. Maybe if you rationalise the situation, it won't come true. But there is also that 1% chance where we could become immortal. And it really is beautiful. As football fans, we should behold this period because it doesn't last long. Any moment now, for many of us, this moment is going to be snatched and cruelly discarded. But for now, we can all dream. Everybody can dream, apart from people who continue to watch this video. Because what I'm about to do is I'm about to rain on your parade. I am about to give you my predictions for the season, but they aren't predictions. No. They are spoilers. I'm about to tell you exactly how the Premier League table will look from number 1 to number 20 come May. The trials, the tribulations, the ebb, the flow, the ups, the downs. I'm going to predict every single one of them, and I will tell you who will reign supreme, and I will tell you who may as well not even bother. That's right. The Premier League season 2025-2026 is upon us. And this is how it's going to play out. Right, so I've had a glass of Rosy Lee. I've given this the due diligence that it deserves. And I'm about to tell you exactly who will finish rock bottom of the Premier League table and will be on a one-way ticket back to the Championship. Burnley. Burnley just don't have enough. They are not capable of staying in the Premier League. Now, I like Scott Parker. I rate Scott Parker. And I hope that it goes well for Burnley. I really do. Turf Moor is a wonderful ground. They are a proud old club. And I love Scott Parker. But they just do not have enough. Losing Brownhill makes Premier League survival almost insurmountable, and it was a major wrench that James Trafford was prized out of their clutches. He was at the epicentre of everything good that Burnley did last year, and they have now lost him. And the moment that Egan Riley went to Marseille, I feel like it was curtains for them. Now look, they do have something that they can cling on to. They do have a decent back line. They built their formidable form on a resoluteness. And maybe they can transfer some of that form into Premier League form. But I think it is just one step beyond. And I think Burnley are going to finish rock bottom of the Premier League next season. Coming in at 19th, it is none other than Brentford. Now, I'm about to pay a courtesy to Brentford that I would pay to any other club. If you lose in the same summer your manager, who is interwoven into the fabric of that football club, you then lose your club captain, who had a brilliant season the previous year. You then lose your top goal scorer, and you then lose your second top goal scorer. If that happened to any club, that club would be in deep trouble. The manager, the two top scorers, and the club captain have all gone. How on earth can they possibly survive? Combine that, what I just said there, with the managerial appointment. Now, I am afraid that I am totally uninspired by this Keith Andrews. I understand that some hipsters within the game find it refreshing. They find it intoxicating. They love it. They see it as a noble, progressive appointment, giving Keith Andrews the job. For me, I think it's a complete mistake. I love listening to Martin O'Neill talk about football. And Martin O'Neill was on TalkSport, and I was listening to him talk about Keith Andrews. He wasn't full of praise. We'll put it that way. Martin O'Neill, the great Martin O'Neill, Celtic's Martin O'Neill, Leicester's Martin O'Neill, the Republic of Ireland, Martin O'Neill wasn't a fan. Let's put it that way. He wasn't a fan. And therefore, I just don't think Keith Andrews is going to have what it takes. When you think about the fact that they have given the managerial reins to a man who was the set-piece coach previously, and he was basically the only person that Thomas Frank didn't take with him to Tottenham Hotspur. This is the season that they go. Frank and Burmo, Norgard, Visser, it is going to be too much for Brentford to survive. And it's not like they've recruited well. I mean, Jordan Henderson. I don't mean that in a snide way. I like Henderson. There was a time when I rated him so highly, and I think he was a fantastic servant to Liverpool Football Club. But no. I mean, maybe there's a chance that he'll be Brentford's next manager. I could see that happening, By Christmas, Jordan Henderson replaces Keith Andrews as manager. So in 18, do you know who else is going to go down this season? The answer is West Ham United. And won't that be a special day? Do you know, I honestly remember being at the Gay Meadow years and years ago singing about West Ham United going down. I think it's going to actually happen again. West Ham are going down, tra-da-da-da-da. West Ham are going down, tra-da-da-da-da-da. No, seriously, I do actually believe that they could, and there is one major reason. There are many reasons, but there is one major reason. The jewel in the crown of all my reasoning, Graham Potter. Graham Potter takes West Ham down. When he came in off the back of Lopetegui, you didn't exactly see a new manager bounce, did you? You didn't exactly see the tide rise with Graham Potter's appointment. Graham Potter strolling around in East London, I genuinely cannot think of a man more out of his depth. Sometimes I think the culture of football clubs is so important, and it's something that we really should factor in. Think about what you know about West Ham fans. Think about the way that West Ham fans see the game. Think about what they mean by the West Ham way. Think about who they idolise, the likes of Bobby Moore, Paolo Di Canio. And then think about Graham Potter. Perhaps the most uninspiring man to have ever stepped foot in East London. I mean, Mohamed Kudus has gone. He's gone to Tottenham. That is a huge V sign to West Ham United's fans. Sounds like Paquetá could still leave. And then you think about who they've brought in. How have they equalised this? Who have they brought in to score the goals? Callum Wilson. They've put Callum Wilson on a flat $6,000 a week. They'll then give him $100,000 a week when he plays. But $6,000 a week, Callum Wilson, one of the most perennially injured players that you could possibly sign, is who they are hanging their hopes of scoring enough goals to keep them in the Premier League. I mean, I know it sounds out there and I know it sounds left field, but trust me, West Ham United are in dire straits. So 17th, the team that are just going to survive, it's Wolverhampton Wanderers. Congratulations. Now, don't get me wrong. There is some major jeopardy around Wolverhampton Wanderers' stay in the Premier League, but I think they are just about going to make it work. You know, they're up against it. Matheus Cunha gone. Ait-Nouri gone. Two of the best players in their position. But the reason I think they survive is the manager. I think Vitor Pereira is an excellent manager. I like the way he conducts himself. I love the way that he buys the fans a pint and all that. And I think that he's just about going to have enough about him. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be a trying season for the Molineux faithful. But if it all goes to plan and West Ham United capitulate, as I think they will, Wolverhampton Wanderers are going to hold on by the skin of their teeth. Now, I'm very pleased to say that Leeds United are going to survive. That's right, Leeds United are going to finish in 16th. Now, don't get me wrong, there is an ode to everything that has gone in the past between Chelsea Football Club and Leeds United in this very room. You can see the paraphernalia dotted around me celebrates Chelsea's rivalry with Leeds United. I don't wish Leeds United well. Leeds United are a huge rival of Chelsea, but I think they're going to survive, and if I'm totally frank with you, I want them to. Not because I like them, I don't wish them any success, but because they are a proper club with proper fans and proper history and a proper ground. And it's a breath of fresh air to have a team like Leeds United back in the Premier League. So part of the reason I think they can do it is because of how they've got on in pre-season. I know you can't read too much into the form of pre-season, but they've got some very impressive results. They're unbeaten and they've played a lot of teams. In Scandinavia the other day, I think it was in Sweden, they played Manchester United. They did not get beat. They played Villarreal. They didn't lose. And you think about what Villarreal have done in pre-season. They played AC Milan again. They didn't lose. And crucially, they've got a new goalkeeper. They had to improve upon Meslier. At one point, I thought they were going to sign Aaron Ramsdale. And when you think about his link to relegation, I thought it was quite a statement that they decided he was not for them. But they've brought in a new keeper, and I think they are well versed at this. They know that there is a chance that Daniel Farke is not a good enough manager for the Premier League. And I think if things start going wrong for them early, they will react. They have impressive owners. They have very ambitious owners. This link that Leeds United have with the 49ers stands them in very good stead. They do have the money. And people keep saying to me that, other teams have outspent them and whatever. And that is true. Sunderland have been very impressive, for example, in this transfer window. But Leeds United were so far ahead of them. Sunderland had to spend that money to kind of catch them up. So I think Leeds United are just about going to have enough. And there is one other crucial reason. Just have a look at their final 10 games of the season. The fixture computer has been so kind to Leeds United. In those final 10 games, they won't play anyone who is going for the league. They will play a lot of teams who should be safe already. And they will play some teams who are round about them in the relegation dogfight. Basically, even if they are in the relegation zone with 10 games to go, they should have enough to pull away. They just have to be in touching distance with 10 to play. Now, I just mentioned them there, but in 15th, we are going to talk about Sunderland. They have come up with such momentum in the way that they did it, and they have not been shy to spend. I think Reggie Lebris is an excellent manager. You look at the way he conducts himself, you look at the way that he speaks about the game, and then you think about that Dreyfus family. Again, incredibly ambitious, incredibly wealthy, and they haven't been shy about spending 120 million. That is the most out of any team outside of the top six. Now, of course, they did have to spend that kind of money. They did need it. But I think the way that they have spent is excellent. And I predict Sunderland to have a really good season. And I'm pleased about that. They've brought in players like Mark Gue, who I think will score goals in the Premier League. Adingra has landed at Sunderland. And now most crucially, and arguably, if you were talking about pound for pound best signings this summer, I think Granit Xhaka's name deserves a mention. This is an astonishing signing, a truly brilliant signing, the exact sort of signing that Sunderland should make. It is a needle mover. It is truly brilliant. And the fact that Granit Xhaka has landed at Sunderland, a player who has turned his back on playing in the Champions League with Bayer Leverkusen, a key cog in that Xabi Alonso team that made history only a year ago, he is now playing for Sunderland. Like last year, Granit Xhaka was nominated for the Ballon d'Or. He's now in Sunderland's midfield. They will not go down. I am convinced they will stay up. And again, in a similar way to Leeds, isn't the Premier League a better place having a side like Sunderland in it? Right, now this one is quite shocking, and I imagine I'm going to get some stick for this, but I've gone Nottingham Forest in 14th. I think it's going to go wrong for them. Not only wrong, I think it's going to go double wrong for Nottingham Forest. To be totally frank, I think they massively overperformed last year. They deserve nothing but credit for what they achieved. But that isn't the norm. That isn't what's going to happen. It was a purple patch for certain players. Chris Wood will never have a season like that again. Milenkovic had the season of his life. It is very unlikely that Sells is going to be the best keeper in the league again. Like, they've lost Anthony Elanga. They've had European expeditions added to their schedule. And crucially, we saw a whisper of how it's going to go for them next season at the end of last year. They capitulated. They were pitiful towards the end of last year, dropping points to that Leicester side that were already relegated as they were hoping to qualify for the Champions League. They won 2 out of their final 8 Premier League games last season. That was a whisper. That was an inkling. That was a little peek around the corner as to how it's going to go for them next year. It's going to be a tough, arduous season for Nottingham Forest. And Mr. Marianakis will not be happy. Also, take a look at their pre-season. It is laughable. Played 7, won none, scored 1. Right, trust me, Nottingham Forest are in stuck next year. And there was actually a chance that I would put them even lower than 14th. But I'm going to stick with that. 14th for Forest. In 13th, we have Fulham. All I can say is stable, stability, sensible. Basically, Marco Silva is an excellent manager, somebody who will keep Fulham stable. And they will therefore finish in a rather uninspiring but impressive 13th. Brighton have gone for in 12th. And part of the reason I've gone for them in 12th is because I expect other teams who underperformed last season so drastically to recover. And 12th, for a club like Brighton, is incredibly complimentary. When you think about how insignificant Brighton are, when you think about how worthless Brighton are really in the pantheon of fantastic football clubs that we have in this country, the fact that they could finish 12th really is impressive. And I think they'll finish 12th off the back of losing the wonderful João Pedro. I think that they'll finish 12th despite the fact that apparently Baleba is desperate to move to Manchester United. Look, last year Hertzler did really well. They finished 8th. I don't think people have acknowledged quite how impressive that is for a club the size of Brighton. But again, I just don't think they can repeat that impressive feat. But I do think they'll finish 12th, which for a club of that stature is, I mean, it's unbelievable. Annoying and unbelievable. Now, here is the biggest compliment that I can pay to anyone in this entire video. I think that Bournemouth will finish 11th. Despite everything that has happened to them this summer, I still believe that Iraola will guide Bournemouth into 11th. They have lost 3 of their 4 starting defenders. Kirkes, Huijsen, Zabani have all gone. When you think about how brilliantly they played and how important they were to everything that Bournemouth achieved last season, they have all gone. And you look at where they've gone. They have sold players to Liverpool, the champions of England, to Paris Saint-Germain, the champions of Europe, and to Real Madrid, the biggest team in the world. Like, that is an unbelievable testament to the job that Iraola has done. It's an unbelievable testament to the job that he has done and the man that he is and the managing calibre that he is capable of, that I still, despite losing their entire back line practically, I still believe that they will finish 11th. Like, off the back of everything that they did last year that was so impressive, I feel like this season for them is maybe a season of stabilisation, but there is no doubt in my mind that Iraola will keep them competitive. And while he is at that club, anything is possible. What a genius of a manager he is. Slap bang in the middle of mid-table, I have gone for Everton. I think they're going to have a good year, everything considered. You know, it's not easy moving into a new ground. Of course you get that enthusiasm. Of course there is that euphoria. Of course there is a spring in the fans' step as they go into a new ground. But ask Arsenal. Ask Man City when they first went in. Ask West Ham United. It won't feel like home. And there is nothing quite like the Gladys Street. There is nothing quite like an away day at Goodison Park. And despite the impressive qualities of this new ground, it won't be home just yet. But with David Moyes in charge, they're going to be just fine. You know, he's not happy. He's been complaining about a lack of transfer activity, but he gets the job done. You know, it's not always pretty. Hipsters don't like it, but David Moyes will always get the job done. He is an excellent manager. He is guiding Everton in the perfect way. He knows that club inside out, and he will undoubtedly make that team competitive. Also, at the time of recording, there is talk that Everton are going to get Jack Grealish over the line. Now, that is a needle mover. If Everton take Jack Grealish into that new stadium, I think that could give everyone a lift. I think sometimes an individual player can land at a club and the entire tide rises. I think Jack Grealish could be that player. I think that could almost guarantee Everton a top half finish, if not something more impressive. I mean, they need a trophy, don't they? Wouldn't it be amazing if Everton, what a proud old club they are, could win a trophy? They haven't won any silverware since Paul Rideout scored against Manchester United in 1995. They desperately need silverware, and a signing like Grealish, married up with David Moyes, totally combined with this new ground, maybe a cup run. 10th in the league is where they will finish, but maybe a good cup run. Right, now, just before we go any further, I'm terribly sorry for interrupting this video, but I need to tell you a couple of things. Firstly, if you're enjoying this video, will you please do me a favour? Please give it a like and please click subscribe. It really does help me out, and I would love to welcome you into this community. I also need to let you know, if you are one of my 20%ers, the 20%ers are a very select few of you, some icons amongst you who watch the whole video. 20% of you watch the video in its entirety. Every video I put up, 20% of you finish that video. So you people that enjoy the full video, I'm doing some more content. I have a member section available. Do you want to become one of my 20%ers? I really do hope so. I've got a live Q&A coming up very soon. And if you want to be part of it, it's the only place that I have the back and forth properly. I would love to welcome you in. Please become a member. So for the rest of you, the content doesn't change at all. But if you are one of those 20%ers, click the members link in the description below. Enjoy the rest of the video. 9th is Newcastle. 9th place Newcastle. That is exactly where they're going to finish. And again, this could be lower. A dreadful summer. About as terrible as it could possibly have gone. An embarrassing summer. About as embarrassing as it could possibly have been. It has been a disaster. From start to finish, an utter disaster. And when you think about where they were off the back of beating Liverpool in that League Cup final, when you think about the joy and the celebrations and the scenes of winning their first trophy for 70 years, it really does feel like a long time ago now. Newcastle United are in the Champions League, and that is going to be an arduous campaign for them. And in terms of their squad, it is, quite frankly, not good enough. If Trafford, Delap, Gurhey and Burmo, Cunha, João Pedro, Ekatike, Sesko had all signed for Newcastle United, this would be a very different thing. But every single one of them turned their nose up at joining that club. Now, the reasons for that really do need to be explored because something isn't happening. There always seems to be a more alluring, more exciting project available. And that is a worry for Newcastle. But the fact that they didn't get any of their major signings over the line, the fact that they have had time of recording only got Aaron Ramsdale and Anthony Elanga over the line, I think it is dreadful. I think Eddie Howe is a remarkable manager, a brilliant manager, the manager that I wish was England manager. But he's been let down. He's been totally and utterly let down. And let's face it, Alexander Isak, the jewel in the crown of that team, will never play for the club again. He will never ever score a goal in front of the Gallagate ever again. And if I'm right and Isak doesn't play for the club, they've already lost Callum Wilson. They don't have any goals in the team. Who is going to lead the line for them on the opening day of the season? Quite frankly, this summer has been a disaster from start to finish for Newcastle United. And as a result, I can only generously put them in 9th. In 8th, I'm going Man United, which is a drastic improvement. I think finally, and rather annoyingly, Manchester United have got it right. The strategy that they employed this summer was the exact strategy that they needed to employ. Sign Premier League proven players. Sign players where the risk is minimalised. Sign players where there is little to no jeopardy. Brian Mbeumo will score goals in the Premier League. How do we know that? Because we've seen him do it before. Matheus Cunha has the artistry and the guile to unlock defences in the Premier League. How do we know it? Because we've seen him do it before. And that is such a good recipe to signing players. Far too many risks have been taken far too many times for far too long by Manchester United. Time and time again, we have seen players who are prodigious and exciting in other leagues be signed with the optimistic outlook that they could replicate that form in the Premier League. And time again, they have let the club down. Ugarte lands at Manchester United, isn't really fit for purpose. Malacia lands at Manchester United, isn't really fit for purpose. Onana lands at Manchester United, isn't really fit for purpose. Højlund lands at Manchester United, isn't really fit for purpose. Xerxes lands at Manchester United, isn't really fit for purpose. And rather ironically, the only player that they have signed from the Premier League isn't fit for purpose. Poor old Mace. But they have attacked this window in a precise way, in the exact place that they needed to attack it. They have gone out and they have signed goals. Goals galore. They've signed 2 proven players and 1 exciting talent. That is the way that you do it. Last year, Manchester United scored a mere 44 goals in 38 games. Laughable, pitiful and embarrassing. So they have gone out and they have signed goals galore. It's impressive. And I tell you what, if they had improved the midfield in the same way that they had improved the front line, maybe we would be talking about Manchester United finishing even higher, because the midfield is lightweight. It needs work, and that is why they are pursuing Baleba. If Baleba lands at Manchester United and he does the business, then maybe we could be talking about Manchester United launching a serious and sustained bid to finish in the Champions League spots. But without Baleba, I feel like this Manchester United squad are capable of finishing in 8th place, which for the great Manchester United is incredibly underwhelming. But if you think about a team that finished 15th in the league last season and had their worst season on record, losing a final to Tottenham, an 8th place finish certainly wouldn't be the end of the world, especially if they could marry it up with a little bit of domestic silverware. Right in 7th, I hate myself for this, but I have to do this in a fair, true and just way. Tottenham Hotspur. Tottenham Hotspur are going to finish 7th under Thomas Frank. And the reason that I think there can be this seismic rise, this momentous shift, this meteoric surge up the table from Tottenham Hotspur is primarily because I rate Thomas Frank so highly. I think he's an excellent manager. Diligent, clever, proven. Don't get me wrong, I don't think that they're going to pull up any trees. I don't think that they're going to do anything spectacular. But Tottenham Hotspur will finish in 7th place, which, considering their form under Ange Postecoglou, is most certainly respectable. Kudus is an excellent signing. Palhinha is a brilliant signing. It is exactly what they need. Missing out on Gibbs White is most certainly not ideal, because I think he would have been a brilliant Tottenham player. And obviously, that injury to James Maddison is a terrible thing, something that we are gutted to see happen. But they need to replace that creativity. They obviously still have work to do in the transfer window. They've lost Heung-min Son as well, and the goals that he would once have given. But whilst I appreciate that there is problems in the squad, whilst I appreciate that there isn't necessarily the depth that there needs to be, they finally, annoyingly, got the right appointment with regard to the managerial role. Thomas Frank is a good manager. You know, Frank is a fastidious manager. He studies the game well. He knows the Premier League inside out, and he is proven. It's annoying, but Tottenham Hotspur are going to finish in 7th. In 6th, now this is probably the surprise package of this entire video. In 6th, it's going to be Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace are on the up. Crystal Palace are in the best period of their entire history. The previous decade has been unlike any other for Crystal Palace. Now, I know that Palace fans are probably watching this saying, what about the Wright and Bright era, the 1991 semi-final, whatever else? I know that there was a good period. John Solako, Ian Wright, Mark Bright, I get it. But the last 10 years has been the best 10 years of Crystal Palace's history. They got promoted, 12 years ago now? There has never really been any threat of them being relegated. There's no jeopardy. Nobody believes that they're in trouble. And they have won their first trophy ever. Ever. Look at the squad. Just think about some of the players in that squad. Who is the best English centre-half? If you're doing your England team, who is the first centre-half that you put down? Undoubtedly Mark Gahey. That is how good he is. England's best centre-half plays for Crystal Palace. Think about the brilliance of Mateta. Think about what Adam Wharton can do on the ball. And then factor in the true greatness of Oliver Glasner. This Crystal Palace team are capable, and I think that they are going to have a season comparable to what Nottingham Forest did last year. They are going to be the surprise package. When you win silverware in the way that they did, beating Manchester City in a final, having a dazzling player like Eberechi Eze pulling the strings, raising the tide, you are capable of anything. And like I say, when you win that silverware, it whets your appetite. You become greedy, you want more. And I think that Crystal Palace are going to go for the jugular this year. Glasner is genuinely a genius. Eberechi Eze in full flow is one of the most glorious sights in Premier League football. In fact, scrap that. Eberechi Eze in full flow is one of the most glorious sights in world football. I think he is my favourite player to watch, Cole Palmer aside. He is truly magnificent. And with him in the team, with Wharton in the team, with Mateta in the team, it's a great back line. They are so capable. Did you see what they did? Went toe-to-toe with that Liverpool team. Liverpool, clearly the best team in the country. And in that Liverpool versus Palace Charity Shield, there wasn't a Rizla paper between the two teams. The squad's thin. Don't get me wrong, the squad is thin. And they're a relatively small club. But I think that they are going to exceed expectations. And I've got Crystal Palace finishing 6th. In 5th, we've got Aston Villa. There's been very little change, and I see very little changing at Aston Villa, which is music to the ears of any villain. If you sit in that whole end, you just want more of the same. Aston Villa did brilliant things last year. Unai Emery is a truly great manager, and that club are on the rise. Just more of the same is absolutely fine for Villa. And cast your minds back to the final day of the season. What happened to them? Missing out on the Champions League by merely goal difference. Do you remember that ridiculous moment that cost them Champions League football at Old Trafford? Bay and Deer made a pig's ear of it, and all of a sudden Aston Villa miss out on Champions League football by merely goal difference. Villa should have been in the Champions League last year, but they missed out. They won't make that same mistake again. They will learn from what happened. They know how arduous it is. They know how severe it is. And I think Villa are going to have an excellent season. Do you know a slightly left field prediction? Villa will win a trophy next year. Unai Emery will guide them to European glory next year. The whole end will be rocking like it's 1982 all over again. Right, top 4. That's the old-fashioned way of saying who's going to have a good season. We used to call it the top 4. Obviously, that's changed with Champions League football, but symbolically it means something. Top 4. 4th, Man City. Just think of their issues last year. They lost 9 out of 11 games. Think how poorly they played. Think how clueless they looked. Just think on how many occasions Manchester City looked so inferior. That has to have an impact. Now look, I know and I totally concede that they have gone some way to resolving their issues. You know, the signing of Reinders, it's impressive. The signing of Cherki is exciting. Ait Nouri is an excellent option at left back. But does it move the needle? Does it adequately replace what is no longer at Manchester City? I think we have become complacent in accepting and acknowledging the brilliance of Man City over the years. And that is because Kevin De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva, Ilkay Gundogan are true legends of the game. And they are actually irreplaceable. It isn't about how good Cherki is. It's that it's going to take time. And Pep Guardiola is a genius, a king, a man that I idolise and would love to meet. But again, it's going to take time. He is effectively building at Manchester City Pep 4.0. This is the 4th team that he is trying to build since he first landed at Man City. And I don't think it's going to happen overnight. I don't think Manchester City can hope for much more than 4th. And when you look at the squad, there are weaknesses. I mean, who is their right back? Who is going to play at right back for them? Is it Rico Lewis? Is it Mateus Nunes? Neither feel like particularly solid options. And Rodri has suffered a setback in his injury. I mean, can they possibly cope without him? Now, I do appreciate what I'm saying here. It's extreme. I appreciate what I'm saying here is incredibly unlikely. This would be the lowest finish for Pep Guardiola in his managerial career. But I truly believe that Manchester City can hope for no more than 4th next year. Right then in 3rd, painfully, it's Chelsea. I was so tempted to put us higher. I've dreamed that we could finish higher, but annoyingly, it's not about us. It's that the other two have just improved too much. We've got better. They've got greater. There is no doubt that we've got better. There is no doubt that we've changed our outlook. There is now no conversation about whether Chelsea qualify for the top 4, top 5. There is no doubt that Chelsea will be in the Champions League the following season. This time last year, people were putting Chelsea in the conversation of Tottenham, Man United and whatever else. Now we aren't in that conversation anymore. If nothing else, we have moved away from the chasing pack. We have left the likes of Newcastle, Tottenham and Manchester United behind. We are now comparable to the very best. And we are getting there. And there are just too many holes in the squad and, frankly, too many average players. There are some great ones. I mean, I love Liam Delap. I'm really excited about seeing him play for Chelsea. João Pedro, a king already. Somebody that I think linking up with Pedro Neto and Cole Palmer is going to be inspiring. But there is just a nagging suspicion that we aren't going to be strong enough at the back. We're going into a season again with Robert Sanchez in goal. Our centre-half situation doesn't look good. And you look at the bench, I mean, it's going to potentially be Gittings and Garnacho. It's just a shame because a few tweaks, a few more ambitious signings, a little bit of experience brought in, something spectacular could happen next year. Now, look, there is a world where we could do it, but it is so reliant upon the other two dropping off spectacularly. And annoyingly, I don't think it will happen. But third and yet more silverware for the greatest club team in the world, I take it. Which now moves us on to who will finish second in the league. And it's going to be Arsenal. Arsenal are going to fall just short yet again for a record 4th time in a row. I don't know if this is the case, and I would love Arsenal fans to let me know how they feel about this. But it feels to me that Arsenal may have missed the boat. They may have missed their perfect opportunity. 2 years ago, there was a period where they were undoubtedly the best team in the league. I remember that run that they went on. Off the turn of the year, Ben White went to Dubai, the team came back, and they were unstoppable. They went on a ridiculous run. I think they won 17 out of 19 games. They were at various points the best team in the country, and the reason that they didn't win the league was because it went a little bit wrong for them just before Christmas. I think they lost to West Ham, they lost to Fulham, and that is the year that they could have won the league then last year. Now, if Manchester City were not going to win the league last year, I think a lot of people would concede, a lot of Gooners would concede that it should have been Arsenal. But they have to put that out of their mind and they have to go again. And they've made some very impressive signings. Like, I think Zubimendi is one of the best signings that anyone's made this summer. He is, undoubtedly, in his position, at what he does, the very best player in La Liga. They have gone and they have taken the best in La Liga and the second best in the world at what he does. And then, again, they've gone out and they've signed exactly what they needed to sign. Victor Gyökeres. What Arsenal needed to do was go out and sign a statement signing. Go out and sign the greatest goal scorer in Europe. And that is what they have done. So again, Arsenal have got it right. They've shown the ambition. They've shown the right sort of material. But is it going to be enough? As things stand, I say no. But there is one caveat to this. If they were to sign Eberechi Eze, I think that could totally change the complexion of Arsenal. I think all of a sudden a player like Eze lands at that club and everything changes. He is a needle mover. He is a truly brilliant player and he is on the precipice of greatness. No doubt. He's an incredible player, Eze. Been brilliant for England. Look at what he did for Manchester City when he won them the cup, and he is like a coiled spring ready to launch himself into a serious campaign for a title. But without Eze, I just think this Arsenal team are going to fall a touch short. I think they could have a good year. I think Arteta has done well. I think anyone, and I only really see it online, I know a lot of people that go over Arsenal and they say that this doesn't happen in the ground. But anyone who's calling out that manager, anyone who's giving Mikel Arteta grief, anyone that is forgetting what Mikel Arteta has done for that club, totally reimagined them, totally remoulded them, made them a serious club, made them a club that I truly believed were going to win European silverware last year, made them a club that would go to Real Madrid and win in the Bernabeu, beat Real Madrid home and away. That is all down to the contribution of Mikel Arteta. If nothing else, he's made them serious and he's made me scared at various points that they were going to do something truly great. So anyone, it's online, isn't it, but who doubts him and is poisonous about him, I don't really get it. But I don't think they're going to win the league. Which means the champions, the retaining champions, the team that retains their title, the first time that they've managed to do that since the mid-80s, it's Arne Slot's Liverpool. They are superstars. This team, can you imagine the way that it's going to play? Can you imagine the campaign that Liverpool are going to go on? Can you imagine the way that Arne Slot is going to get this team purring when he has had a bit of time to spend with them? When he has sprinkled that stardust on the likes of Ekitike, when Ekitike has found his rhythm linking up with Florian Wirtz, when Florian Wirtz has found his rhythm linking up with Mohamed Salah, this team is going to be generational. I truly believe it. I think that Liverpool are on the precipice of dynasty. And I was listening to Mark Lawrenson, a true Liverpool icon, speak, and he was saying that this is the greatest Liverpool squad that he has ever seen. I mean, bearing in mind we are talking about European Cup winner Mark Lawrenson. Bearing in mind that we are talking about 5-time title winner Mark Lawrenson. A man who knows about squads. A man who knows about Liverpool. I would actually contest that this is the greatest Liverpool squad. When you think of the spine of this team compared to maybe the previous team, the team that he was part of, and you sort of go Clements, God, I'm doing this off the top of my head, but from what I've understood, it goes Clements, Hansen, Souness, Dalglish, Rush. That to me sounds better, but a Liverpool fan will have to confirm or deny. But there is no doubt that this is the greatest team around at the moment. There's no doubt that this is one of the greatest managers around at the moment. There's no doubt that they are doing an institution that is comparable to the very greatest in the pantheon of greats. And I think that this Liverpool team are going to make history. Do you want to hear the boldest of bold? Do you know what this Liverpool team are going to do? You've heard it here first. This is the prediction of all predictions. They, at the very least, hit, if not break, the Manchester City Centurions. They will hit or break 100 points. That is how good this Liverpool team are. So there we have it. There is no doubt in my mind that Liverpool are going to win the league. They are going to be Centurions themselves. There is also no doubt that at the other end of the table, it is Burnley who are propping the rest up. Everything that happened in between is totally accurate, and I have fastidiously studied this, and there are my conclusions. What you need to do now, though, is do me a massive favour. Leave me your predictions. I want to see your 20 in the comment section below. I'm going to be studying them the second this video goes live. Look forward to reading them. Thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed it, please give it a like. Please click subscribe, and I'll see you in a bit. Ta-da!